What's up, everybody? Now, one of the things that you're going to see a lot in modern media is that everybody's got a script for something. 5 points of this, 4 points of that. Let's do this, right? And one of the neat things is back in 2020 when I was trying to connect with Bob Kosberg and then Pedro and everybody else, it was, well, let's take the 5 root points of spellcraft and let's apply how we do the root functions of how do you put a spell together, and then you deliver them, right? And you create a system or a connection and a community and a thing and a whole big, everybody loves the scripts to sell them, right? Well, what folks don't seem to understand about scripts is that as a retailer, when I was teaching my employees in the first 30 to 90 days of their employment, they needed to use at least a scripted template for the first 10 or 15 interactions that they had, for the very simple fact is they didn't know how to speak. They didn't know how to say the words in the right kind of way that would elicit the response from the client until they got into those situations organically that would allow them to find their own words their own way. And it's when they can break away from using scripted stuff, when they have thoughts on a piece of paper that you write down, and that's one thing. But it's, hi, I'm a mindless zombie. I'm going to sell you this thing today. Buy my widget, buy my ware. Versus, I call forth the spirits, and there's wind. You know, and there's even a soundtrack. Cannot play. Cannot play. But one of the things that we do in the academy is that we go through and I give examples of this is the conjuration that I use to connect with these energies. And until the individual finds their own kind of way with it, right? There's not a lot of wiggle room in the initial. Like you do it as written. Like when you're buying the books of magic, you do the spell as written and you don't modify it and make it your own, right? Well, that's the absolute backwards, most bullshit approach to doing this that you do with any of them. That's the biggest lie of witchcraft, is that you have to follow the book. Bullshit. The book is a suggestion. The book is a guideline, shall we say, right? And so, Mike, when you were conjuring these things, when you were doing these things, right? What is your experience with that same use the scripted method and then make it your own? What is your experience with that? What can you talk about with that?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, I used your words right out of the book, and it worked perfectly. But I found that as I went on, as I learned how to make the sigils, do the methods indicated for it, and I learned the major part of the words, like calling forth of the name of the gate, according to the planet. The words were just there. They came as you would speak, like I call forth the fire, I call forth the fire that burns on top of the earth. Let's call forth the earth. It all flows naturally. You know what I mean? Kind of like a poet almost, but you're not trying to rhyme. You're just, you're calling forth each individual element, and then thus you get the spirit. It all just comes into one. And I would say it forms in you naturally. The more you understand your talent, the more you walk your path, the more you work with these words, these names, these conjurations, it almost becomes habit. Like you've already known it. It's just needed to be awakened. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to like the difficult process of teaching employees how to do these things, right? Because that's how I look at you as an employee of the academy, as a associate of it, as a collaborative with it, as someone who is an extension of the business principles that I represented when I had my store here in town, which was the Adam and Eve, right? It's like the ladies would walk in and, I'd say, hey, what's going on? You having a fun day? And they're like, no, we don't want anything. It's like, I don't want help. Like, I didn't ask you that. Pattern interrupt. Pay attention. Are you paying attention? I said, are you having a fun afternoon? You're in a sex shop, for God's sake. Is it fun? And then they would laugh, and then they would go about their thing, and then it would be an entirely different experience than if it was like, okay, well, I don't want to, like, ew, it's weird. Like, no, let's not have the thing. Like, no, and you're doing the thing.
Because you broke the ice. Like, you know what I mean? They felt more comfortable after chatting with you than versus before chatting. Before they were probably thinking, man, what are people thinking? This and that. What's this guy up there at the desk thinking? After you broke the ice, the atmosphere changed. They were like, oh, this guy's a goofball. You know what I mean? He ain't paying attention to us. It's the same thing with magic. When you first when you first get into doing your incantations, your conjurations, and things like that, it's all new. You don't know what to say. You don't know if you're saying it the correct way or,
right.
Am I doing it right? And with anything that you learn, it's trial and error. But you'll notice through your trials and your many errors that it just comes natural. You start to say, you don't even think about it. You stand in front of the fire and it's like almost the fire just memorizes you and it just comes out. And then all of a sudden the wind blows and you're like, hey, that's fucking pretty cool, Especially when you spend all day on a burning fucking mountain and it's like no wind, you're fucking sweating, you're doing one of these numbers trying to get some relief, and then it's like, I call forth the spirits, and it's like an air conditioner just, and it's good when when the person you're with is like, the wind picked up, like it clicked, you know what I mean, like, and it's like yes, they're listening, they're here, they're letting you know. This is the shit that makes people run,
Right? Like, oh my God, they heard me. Like, oh my God, it worked. Like, yes, it works. That's the point.
Where are you going to run from the wind? It's everywhere. It's all around you, every direction. You know what I mean? You have a hard time. You called it forth. Now you deal with it. You ask it your questions. You give it its offerings. You do what you need to do. You thank it and you go. Now.
And these are some of the practices from ancient times that people have been doing since recorded history began. It's like you're talking to the wind, you witch the wind. Like, it's part of our job description is to be able to modify local environment in accordance with our will. Like, if we can't do that as part of our job description, we have failed.
Yeah.
That is why it is a fundamental operational mechanic. You need to know what the spirits are doing. Well, how are you going to know what the spirits are doing other than to call forth the spirits of nature in nonviolent ways to have a pleasant experience with your spiritual encounter. So that when you connect to the magic, everything flows.
That's another thing I want to put out there. Magic is not evil. It's not bad. Like, it's Hollywood. It's the those that want to deter you from knowing your true power that are making you think this. When you look back into history, the right history, and the only reason I say that is because everybody knows those who win wars write history. So our history is not correct. But when you look back to, like, say, the ancient Sumerian or the ancient Mayan, even the Hopi, you understand that they did things astrologically. They knew when to plant their harvest. They knew when to pick up their harvest. They knew when to do this. They knew when to do that, all according to the placement of astrology. Same thing we as warlocks, mages, wizards, sorcerers, we count on astrology. We know astrology. We use the planets, the herbs, the synchronization to will out what we're working on. It's the same thing there. It's just Hollywood has kind of deterred you from what really is magic. Magic is, messing with the environment to bring rain because the trees need it, or you're standing on a hot mountain and you need just a fresh breeze, or it's like, okay, I need some answers. Let's make a circle and put some incense down and light a candle and give an offering, and let's see if we can't get some communication with this entity to get some answers that you're not otherwise going to get here in this room. You know what I mean? Like, these things happen. You just need to know how to will them to happen and not get scared when they happen. And that's, society has done that to people. They, something moves up, like you're sitting here and all of a sudden your cup goes to the other side and you didn't move it, and it's like, the first thing people want to do is fucking run. I'm out of here. That shit moved on its own. Hello. That is an entity trying to tell you to pay attention. They want your attention. Why? Maybe they're lost. Why? Maybe they just want to fuck you. Why? Maybe they just wanted to see if it would move. Who knows?
Right.
Nevertheless, it moved. It's there. It's making you aware it's there. Screw the holy text. Communicate with it. Find out you're going to be that someday. You lose your flesh suit, you're going to be that. So
Right.
think about that. You know what I mean?
How do you want to spend your eternity? Do you want to spend your eternity being afraid of the fact that you're like that, or are you going to be like fucking with people, like throwing the coffee cups across the room, like?
Right. People are so caught up in this. Oh, you're going to die and go to hell if you don't listen to this God. Blah 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 blah. Look, I've died a couple times, over and over. Like, it's not that. Like, I didn't understand it until I started to learn the ancient Sumerian ways, the Egyptian ways, the Hopi ways. When you start to learn biochemistry and astrology and how everything's put together, we are energy. Without this flesh suit, we are a spark of energy. Okay? Now think about that. Because you can't kill energy. Energy only transforms. So if you are energy, you're not dying. You're just transforming, whether it be reincarnation, whether it be another life in a human body born as a baby. One baby dies, another baby, somebody dies and a baby's born.
Right.
You see the transformation. This hell shit, there probably is an underworld. The Egyptians talk about it. They got a Book of the Dead. It says there's an underworld. Okay, so there's an underworld for evil people that can't control their immortal selves or something. I don't know. It's in there. But nevertheless, you can't rule it out.
Right.
These things exist, whether it's from the underworld, whether it's just a lost soul here on earth, or whether it's an angelic being sent here to interfere with man because something's going on that man can't control. Whatever the case is, they're real. And the more you ignore them, the more you're making them feel not important, or if they never was. You know what I mean? Like, when you're gone, nobody's going to think of you except your family members. And even then, you're going to be a memory, just a thought.
Right.
30 seconds, back in your day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So they just ask for acknowledgement. That's acknowledgement, and that's where we're at today. People aren't acknowledging the old gods like Osiris and Tefnut and Set and Thoth and all them other ones. They've been forgotten. They've been pushed down by man's greed. It's about time we bring them back. Show the people, look, these people, these gods, these lowercase gods, these higher gods, these archangels, these demons, they exist. They're very much real, but they're not portrayed as, Hollywood been making portray them. Yes, there are some evil, scary, fucking demon type shit out there. I've ran across it, but I've also ran across entities that just wanted help passing on, or just wanted some kind of communication to be recognized again. You know what I mean? So it's just like a big realm out there that people just don't understand. And until you learn this craft, and until you understand the workings of the universe, you're just as lost as everybody else. You're just going with the flow. You're the narrative.
And that's one of the things, that knowing the way that energy moves, and knowing how to walk with it, and how to connect with it, and how to commune with it, and how to make it flow through you as a living extension of your will in nature, right? And again, I go back to entrepreneurs. I go back to the business people. I go back to the people that are speaking on stages that are telling people stuff to manipulate their fate in accordance with some will of their design, right? Is it 5 principles of spellcraft? Is it 5 principles to learn how to do a business thing? Are you making a funnel? Are you doing a challenge? What are the 5 principles of? It's just an introduction into the thing that you're doing. So yeah, it's a simple, like, everybody's barking the same speech, but if you listen, it's the introduction to the root of what they're doing, right? And by doing that, and by connecting beyond that, that's where there's the vibrancy of life. That's where the organic nature of what happens when nature interacts with spirit occurs, right? Because you don't know how it's going to grow. You don't know what your next paranormal job's going to be, but you know it's coming because there's going to be a referral from a customer, because there you got a line of happy people at your door. And that's the way that it is with the academy. And that's the way it is with my practices. And what I do when I do client work with people is, like, I've had clients for years that they don't trust anybody else but me to do my work with them, right? I command $200 for my psychic readings. And that's the minimum. That's where they start. I'm not doing it less than that because it takes time, it takes connection, it takes commitment and connection to these people because I've had them in my life for so long, right? So my consulting fees are $200 an hour, roughly, because of that. And I have a track record with that. And so getting you into that next step where you're taking on client work and your paid work, and these are the kinds of things that you're doing to help raise funds for SPRAD, and to be able to do that and to be able to get into that next step. So that way you are making something with it. You are doing something that's just beyond what is words and intangible. You're beginning to get that tangible growth with it, but it only comes when you step off of the script and you start telling the script of your narrative of what it is you're doing, right? So when you start talking about SPRAD, when you start talking about the spell work that you're doing in the same way that you've done it here, in the same way that we've had our moments today, you walk that out forward and it's going to be way more insane.
Right.
And so that's what I invite anybody else to do, is that, wherever they find this video, whoever finds it, come find us. ALScourses.com for the membership subscriptions. And then there's the membership website that's in the back of that. So the early videos and stuff, it's a lot of deep information. So I like info dumped, but the real interaction comes in the Zooms and the interactions like what we're doing here with Mike and what we do with Robin and what we do on the weekend with Daniel and Stephen, Peyton and all these people. So have a great day, everybody. And thank you for participating. And I appreciate y'all's time. Bye for now.